Lesson 5.4 Conversions. Conversion is the process of converting from one unit of measure to another. For example, we can convert from inches to feet, days to months, cups to gallons, etc. Conversions require the knowledge of something called a conversion factor. This is the basic number of one unit as it relates to another. So for example, there are 12 inches in 1 foot. 12 and 1 are the conversion factors. If we're going from inches to feet, we would divide by 12. If we were going from feet to inches, we would multiply by 12. So in other words, if we go from a larger unit to a smaller unit, we're talking about the size of the unit, we would multiply. If we're going from a small unit to a larger one, we divide. Sometimes we'll perform more than one multiplication or division if we do not have a direct conversion factor. So for example, if I wanted to go from inches to miles. So these are our standard conversion factors. These are English Standard. I'm just going to write that here. This is called English Standard. And the other system of measurement we have is the metric system. In the English Standard system, it's funny that it's called standard, but because there's not really a standard. If we're talking about length, 12 inches equals 1 foot, 3 feet equals 1 yard, 36 inches is a yard, or 1,760 yards is a mile. We also can use feet to miles. And that's 5,280. So you can see there's really nothing in common with these numbers. But we're talking about area, 144 square inches is 1 square foot, 9 square feet is 1 square yard. If we're talking about weight, 16 ounces is a pound, and 2,000 pounds is a ton. If we're talking about capacity, we have 2 cups equals a pint. Capacity is volume. 2 pints equals a quart. 4 quarts equals a gallon. We also have ounces in volume 2. We have fluid ounces, and 8 fluid ounces equals 1 cup. Time, 365 days equals a year, 52 weeks equals a year, 10 years equals a decade, and 100 years equals a century. So let's practice some conversion. If I'm going from ounces to gallons, I don't have a direct conversion from ounces to gallons, but I do know that there are 8 ounces in 1 cup. So I can go from 384 ounces to some amount of cups. I don't have cups to gallons, but I do have quarts to gallons. So I'm going to go from cups to pints, pints to quarts, and quarts to gallons. So then I'll do cups to pints, pints to quarts, and then quarts to gallons. Now, since I'm going from small to large, I'm dividing by conversion. Okay, so 384 divided by 8. Okay, so this is going to be 48 cups. Now 48 cups, there are 2 cups in a pint, so I'm going to do 48 divided by 2, and that's going to give me 24 pints. And there are 2 pints in a quart, so I'm going to do 24 divided by 2, and I'm going to get 12 quarts. And there are 4 quarts in a gallon, so I'm going to do 12 divided by 4, and that will give me 3 gallons. So 384 ounces is 3 gallons. Now there's another way to do this problem, and we will talk about that momentarily. I'm going to do the same problems again using a different method, but first let's go through and do these methods. Okay, I want to do 1 mile is equal to or is equal to what in feet? Now, I already put the conversion factor here, but let's pretend I didn't have this written on here. How would I figure out how many feet were in a mile? Well, I could go from miles to yards, and then from yards to feet. So 1 mile is equal to 1,760 yards, and 1,760 yards is equal to, well, I would do 1760 times 3, because there's 3 feet in 1 yard, and I would get 5,280 feet. Going from ounces to pounds, I've got 160 ounces. Well, I've got a conversion, 16 ounces to 1 pound. So I'm going to do 160 divided by 16, and that gives me 10 pounds. And finally, I'm going from gallons to quarts. This time I'm going from larger to smaller. Oh, I did that in this example too. So 7 gallons. We know that there's 4 quarts in 1 gallon, so I'm going to do 7 times 4, and that will give me 28 quarts. Okay, so let's look at this again in a different method. Okay, you may have seen this if you've taken a chemistry class, but if you haven't taken a chemistry class before, you might not have seen it. It's another method. It's called stoichiometry. And what we do is we take the unit we start with, and we're going to multiply that by a fraction. And we're trying to get to where we'll have gallons on top. Now, I don't have a direct ounces to gallons, but I do have ounces to cup. So I want to go to cups from ounces. So I have 1 cup and 8 ounces. So 8 ounces goes on the bottom and cups goes on the top because these ounces will cancel. Then I'm going to go from cups to pints. So I get 1 pint for every 2 cups. These cups will cancel, and now I have pints. Then I want quarts. This pint will cancel that pint. Sorry, that should be a 2. And then finally, gallons. 1 gallon is 4 quarts. And these quarts will cancel. So I've gone from ounces to cups to pints to quarts to gallons. Once I've done this, I multiply directly across the top. So 384 times 1 times 1. So that gives me 384. And then I multiply across the bottom. 8 times 2 is 16. Times 2 again is 32. Times 4 is 128. So I'll take 384 and I divide it by 128. And I get 3 gallons. Okay. Doing our feet to mile, or miles to feet, I start with 1 mile, and I have 1 mile is equal to 1,760 yards. I want yards, so yards goes on top and miles go on the bottom so that they'll cancel. Then I can go from yards to feet. Well, there's 3 feet in 1 yard. This will cancel the yards, and I'll be left with feet, and I have 1,760 times 3 times 1, and I have 1 times 1, so 5,280 feet. Same thing with our pounds and ounces. I have to start with 160 ounces, multiplying that by 1 pound over 16 ounces. My ounces will cancel. That leaves me with 160 divided by 16, which leaves me with 10 pounds. Gallons to quarts, I can do 7 gallons times 4 quarts over 1 gallon. My gallons will cancel. 7 times 4 is 28 quarts. So there's 2 different ways that you can approach this. And the same will be true for the metric system. We have our metric system. Metric system is a prefixed base, and it's a base 10 system. That means that all units are in multiples of 10. So we start and we have kilo, hecto, deca, deci, centi, and milli. Kilo means 1,000, hecto means 100, deca means 10, deci means tenth, centi means 100th, and milli means 1,000th. In the center you have your base unit. So if we're talking about kilometers, 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, 1 hectometer is 100 meters, 1 decameter is 10 meters, 10 decimeters equal 1 meter, 100 centimeters equal 1 meter, and 100 millimeters equal 1 meter. The same thing is true with liters, grams, and then we have some approximations. 1 meter is a little bit more than a yard. A kilometer is a little bit more than half a mile. A kilogram is about 2.2 pounds, and a liter is a little more than a quart. Just so you have a reference, a frame of reference. Another way to look at these is we can do a staircase method. Each time you move down the staircase to a smaller sized unit, you multiply by 10. Or you move the decimal that many places to the right. That's what multiplying by 10 does. Each time you move up the staircase, backwards, or just up, you divide by 10. Or move the decimal that many places to the left. This is why metric system is so much simpler than English standard, because it's a base 10. So it's just multiplying and dividing by 10 to convert between units. The prefixes are the same, and your base unit is a meter for length, a liter for volume, and a gram for weight. So let's look at some examples. I want to go from kilometers to meters. Well, if I go from kilometers to meters, I'm going 1, 2, 3 staircases down. So I'm going to take my kilometers and I'm going to move my decimal place 1, 2, 3 places, and I'm going to get 5,000 meters. To go from liters to milliliters, let's look at our staircase. I'm at liters and I want to go to milliliters. I go 1, 2, 3 staircases. Oops, wrong direction. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to have 7 liters is equal to 7,000 milliliters. If I'm going from grams to kilograms, I'm going up the staircase. I'm starting here at grams, which is the base unit. So I'm going 1, 2, 3 spaces up. So I'm going to take my 6,500, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 spaces backwards. So I'm going to have 6.5 kilograms. From centimeters to millimeters, I'm going 1, 2 stairs down. So 1, 2 places over. So 12,500 millimeters.